Donald Trump today vowed to impose a 200% tariff on John Deere's imports. We'll be talking to
John Deere, the American agricultural giant, has just dropped a bombshell that has left President Donald Trump seething. The company's bold decision to expand operations overseas is a direct challenge to Trump's America First agenda, and now he's firing back with a threat of a 200% tariff. Will John Deere stand its ground, or will Trump's fiery rhetoric force to rethink its global strategy?
A model tractor that somebody gave me at some point, like Deere is, 50% of their sales to U.S. farmers, they make it here. They are, in this global world, it's close to as an American product as you can get.
John Deere, the iconic American manufacturer known for its green tractors and agricultural machinery, has made a bold move that has sent shockwaves across the business world. The company recently announced plans to shift some of its operations overseas, a decision that has ignited fierce debate. This move marks a strategic shift for John Deere, which has long been seen as a symbol of rural America. The company's new approach focuses on expanding its global footprint and setting up operations in countries where labor costs are lower and market demand is rising.
Billions of dollars in wealth back to the good old USA.
If re-elected, Donald Trump says he'll recruit foreign companies to the U.S. under this pitch: lower taxes, lower energy costs, and less regulation.
The economic rationale behind this move is clear. The rising costs of labor and manufacturing in the U.S., combined with stricter environmental regulations and supply chain issues, have made domestic production increasingly difficult for companies like John Deere. To stay competitive, John Deere needs to look beyond the borders of the United States, tapping into emerging markets where demand for agricultural equipment is growing rapidly. Countries like Brazil, India, and China, where farming is still a dominant part of the economy, are seeing increasing demand for modern agricultural machinery. If John Deere doesn't seize this opportunity, it risks losing ground to companies like Kubota and Mahindra, who are already expanding their reach in these regions. The overseas expansion is not just about cutting costs, it's also about positioning John Deere as a global leader in agricultural technology. The company has a massive presence in over 130 countries, with manufacturing plants and offices spread across 30 nations. By focusing on international growth, John Deere can meet the needs of farmers worldwide, offer innovative solutions, and ensure its long-term success. As a global player, John Deere is looking to remain relevant and dominate the agricultural machinery market, not just in the US, but across the world.
Buying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere...
When John Deere decided to expand its operations overseas, it set off a political storm, particularly with President Donald Trump. Trump's America First agenda is centered around revitalizing U.S. manufacturing and discouraging outsourcing, and John Deere's move felt like a betrayal of these principles. For Trump and his supporters, it's all about keeping jobs and production in the U.S. to strengthen the economy and protect American workers. John Deere, once a shining example of American manufacturing, was expected to embody this vision of domestic job creation. But instead, the company's decision to take its operations abroad was seen as a slap in the face to Trump's agenda. Trump's response was swift and aggressive. At a campaign rally, he blasted John Deere, calling the company disloyal and vowing to impose a 200% tariff on any products the company manufactures outside the US. This dramatic move was aimed at punishing John Deere for going against the values that Trump champions. To Trump, it wasn't just a business decision, it was a political one, and it reflected a larger issue he's been railing against for years: the outsourcing of American jobs to foreign countries. His fiery rhetoric was intended to send a message to other companies that they better think twice before following in John Deere's footsteps. Trump's vision for America's future is one where manufacturing thrives on home soil, and he's willing to use his political power to punish companies that he believes are undermining this vision. His rhetoric on this issue has been consistent, and John Deere's decision has only intensified his resolve to push back against any company that looks outside the US for cheaper labor and more favorable economic conditions.
100% tariff on John Deere, and you know what's going to happen? They're going to announce very shortly, if they think I'm going to win, or if I do win, they're going to announce that they're not going to build in Mexico.
Trump's threat of a 200% tariff on John Deere products manufactured abroad was much more than just a business strategy. It was a clear political move aimed at rallying his base and sending a message to corporate America. By using tariffs as a tool, Trump was making it clear that companies like John Deere, which choose to expand operations outside the US, could face serious consequences. For Trump, it was a way to reinforce his America First agenda, which heavily emphasized the need for American manufacturers to stay within US borders. He viewed outsourcing as a betrayal of American workers and a part of the global trade problem he vowed to fix during his presidency. The tariff threat was meant to push companies that defied his policies, and John Deere's decision to expand globally made them a target. From Trump's perspective, this was about sending a warning to other American companies considering a similar move. The 200% tariff was intended to act as a powerful deterrent. If John Deere could be punished for outsourcing, other corporations would think twice before making the same decision. This approach served Trump's broader political goals by appealing to his base, who often see outsourcing as a core that's been eroding American jobs for decades. Trump's tactics wasn't just about punishing John Deere, it was about showing strength and ensuring other companies toe the line when it comes to the America First vision. In response, John Deere stood firm, refusing to back down from its decision. The company's response was surprisingly resolute. Initially, there were fears within the company that Trump's tariffs could cripple their global expansion plans and damage their business in the US. But John Deere didn't buckle under the pressure. They emphasized that the overseas expansion was part of a long-term strategy to ensure competitiveness and growth, not a political statement. This response was not only a defiance against Trump's political maneuvering, but also a reflection of the company's commitment to adapting to global market trends. Despite the intense political pressure from Trump and his supporters, John Deere refused to back down from its decision to expand operations abroad. The company's leadership understood that the move wasn't just about business strategy, it was about ensuring long-term survival in an increasingly competitive global market. The expansion overseas was driven by practical economic considerations, rising labor costs in the US, stricter environmental regulations, and the need to stay competitive in markets where agricultural growth was outpacing that of the US.
Start buying. China's not buying like they're supposed to under the agreement. And I'd say, China, you have to start buying. I'd like to, if I can, Lee, I'd like to have a few questions, if you want.
For John Deere, staying competitive meant positioning itself in countries where labor costs were lower and where agricultural industries were growing rapidly, such as Brazil, India, and China. These regions represented key growth opportunities, and John Deere couldn't afford to miss out. Expanding into these markets wasn't a matter of choice. It was a necessity if the company wanted to maintain its status as a global leader in agricultural machinery. The competition in the global market was fierce, and John Deere needed to make sure it could offer competitive prices and products to farmers around the world. The economic forces driving John Deere's decision were significant. Labor costs in the US were rising, making it increasingly difficult for companies to manufacture goods domestically and remain competitive. At the same time, supply chain challenges and increasing tariffs on materials made domestic production even more expensive. Moving parts of its operation abroad allowed John Deere to mitigate these rising costs while still offering high-quality products. This was about securing the company's future in a rapidly changing global economy. The clash between John Deere's global expansion and Trump's America First policies has created a real dilemma for American farmers, particularly those who support Trump's vision. Many farmers have long relied on John Deere equipment as a trusted brand for their operations, but Trump's rhetoric about outsourcing has led some to question whether John Deere's decision was a betrayal of American values. For farmers who support Trump's stance on protecting US manufacturing, John Deere's move to shift operations overseas felt like a slap in the face. They see it as a company choosing profit over patriotism, abandoning the very ideals that Trump championed during his presidency. On the other hand, these same farmers also face the harsh realities of modern agriculture. Rising costs, unpredictable weather, and global market pressures mean that maintaining affordable, high-quality equipment is more important than ever. John Deere has been a cornerstone of farming in the US for decades, and for many, its machinery is indispensable. The company's equipment is seen as reliable, innovative, and essential for running a successful farm. But with Trump's tariff threats hanging over the company, farmers are left to wonder if sticking with John Deere will make things more expensive, and whether the company's global expansion is really to blame for the rising costs they're already facing. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.